Well, welcome. I should mention that it is Amiri Baraka's birthday today. We'll talk about that later. Thank you so much for coming. You've been known by several names throughout your career, and these changes of names seem to mark very crucial shifts in your intellectual and political thinking. So what's in a name?
Well, the name I was given was Everett Leroy Jones, named after my grandfather and my father, and who had changed their names. So, I mean, I was just following that tradition. The real name is Johns, from the island off the coast of off Charleston, South Carolina. And they didn't want to be named Johns because they thought it was an apostrophe S, I guess. So they changed it to Jones. And moved out of the South. The ones in South Carolina stayed, the ones in Alabama got run out of Alabama. They burned my grandfather's store. He had a store down there. They burned it down. He built a funeral parlor. They threatened to burn that down and threatened to kill them, so he moved all of his family out of Alabama to Pennsylvania, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, same town the football player Joe Namath was in. Then they moved to Newark. So my family's been in Newark since the 20s, so I guess we're almost 90 years in that city. And my second son is now councilman in the South Ward, the largest. So there was some purpose to stay there. You know, he's a very good poet, and he's also thinking about running for mayor. I don't know what that will mean. These are maniacs. But so we've had a long, long tenure in New Jersey, in Newark, and I've had some influence in that town, That was part of the reason I wanted to go back home, because I thought that talking about revolution is one thing, but actually making change on the ground is another thing that we still have to learn how to do. And so that's what I wanted to do, go back and actually see something happen, So that's what we've been doing these many years. And now my wife and I have 5 adult children. The youngest is 37, 38. And a bunch of grandchildren. That's where she is, minding 2 of them right this minute. So, it goes round and round. I mean, it's an old town with a heavy tradition. People don't know it, but even during slavery, Newark had an anti-slavery newspaper, So it has a long tradition of fighting like that, And I've always picked up on that when I was a little child. My grandparents' parents used to constantly talk about that, And even though I went away to be a wild young bohemian, when they first produced Dutchman and I read the reviews, I could see that they were going to make me famous. So for the first time, all the things my parents and grandparents had been telling me constantly became the focus of what I wanted to say. I mean, they obviously had done that for a reason. They weren't just, while you were trying to get the biscuits, they were telling you about Afro-American history. So that was the point. I finally discovered what the point of it was. when I got to be mature.
Can you talk us through the new American aesthetics of theatre that you brought with your plays?
Of the poets that we read, the older poets, William Carlos Williams, Langston Hughes, came to Europe, then went back. What was their line? Write American poetry. Use your own language. Use your own rhythms. That was what drew me to people like Ginsberg. He was saying, American speech. There's a whole poetry in that's not being used. That's what Williams is. That was Langston Hughes. The two American poets that came up here and stayed who became famous English poets, Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot, both Hicks from the Midwest. But that was finally not the poetry we wanted, the quotes and all of the foreign languages, Latin, Greek, all that. We wanted to talk about America ourselves, and so that's what that was. How could we get a poetry that talked about this place, this country, this land, our experience in our language, and that's what that was. So for poets, it's important because the poet is the most direct. You don't have to go in the theater. You don't have your printing press. I mean, it'd be good if you had one. But poetry is the most direct, and the most direct assault on this thing, And it's actually, for Afro-Americans, we have a great literature. America, we have a great literature. We don't have to take second to anybody on the planet. The question is, get it out. Find a way to do it. Find a venue, find a place. You got a double task, not only to create it, but to publish it, distribute it, get it out there, get it into people. So it's a double task, and you have to do it,
So as you say, times change, and each new change brings a new challenge. What do you think is the greatest legacy of the Black Arts movement?
Well, times change, but the fundamental elements are the same. You got to find new ways to approach it. The problem now, the election of Obama creates a problem for the Afro-American people because a lot of people figure, it's over, no struggle, we got a black president. But that means you got to struggle at another level. That's all that means, But they have to stop making war on the world to make the corporations rich, you see. And they have to stop Romney for trying to make a corporate dictatorship rather than the government. And that's what the struggle is. But people don't understand. That's what I mean about art. You have to create consciousness. You say, well, is it hard to create art that deals with regular life forces? Well, that's what you need to do. If you don't know how to do that, then you need to find a way to do that. You need to talk about the things that really affect people and find a way to say it so that they remember it, so that they understand it, so that they understand it.